Good evening guys and welcome to my channel. Tonight is part 1 in a series I'm going to do about journals and how to make them. I have got a lot of questions from newbies that think it's too difficult to make a journal. So to show that everyone can make their own journal, I want to do this recordings and show everyone that even you and everyone else can make a journal. I'm going to show you a few different types of journals that I have made, and we will also make one together and starting today. So let's move the camera around so you can see my table, and let's start making journals. These are a few of the journals I have made through the years. I have been making journals for about 15 years now, more or less. I started with some art journaling and made art journals at first, and then I moved over to make my own art journals, and then I have made several different journals from that day. So kind of this is the smallest and most basic journal you can make. Just one paper that is a cover, and then a few pages on the inside for writing. And these are sewn in with a thread and 2 holes. I have taken a handmade paper that I have made with plants and watercolor, and on the inside I have used textile and just glued it together and put in some colored paper. So that's one type of journal. And another really small but cute journal is this one that I have made from an envelope. So I have just taken one long envelope and folding it in the middle. Put on some lace, sewn in a few papers, and put on a seam binding. And this is also one that is just glued, and the signature is sewn in with some textile. I had another question about sewing machine, and a lady said she couldn't do any journals because she hadn't a sewing machine. And you don't need any sewing machine. You need paper, glue, and maybe some textile, and then you can make your own little book. So don't think that is something you need to do as a really big and difficult book to do. Start simple and then move on and make it more or less big. So the inside of this is I don't remember, yes, I did pockets. I just used the envelope and made some pockets from the envelope itself. I put on some real stamps and made that as a pocket. I have used an old cabinet card as a decoration, some decoupaged paper, and instead of doing the decoupage on the paper, I do that on another paper and then I scan this in my printer. That way it won't be bulky, but you still have the nice pattern. So that is one tip you can have, that if you want to do your own patterned pages, to glue everything on top of the paper and then scan it if you have a printer. An old ephemera from my farm from 1895. And if you don't have any old papers, just use old books and use newspapers. You can use ordinary printer papers. Take what you have and you can decorate it anyway and have fun. And later on you might like to have some printables and print out. They are not expensive and you can use them over and over again. So this was a thick page and I have made a pocket in the top. You can get it to like this. So we have another pocket on the top of that page. Some lace and roses. And lace you can use from old clothing. Go to thrift stores and find different kind of tablecloth, curtains, dresses. Often on children's dresses you can find beautiful laces. Another page that I think is kind of a pocket. And this is the inside of a flower book that I used, and then I just wrote something on top of it from 1890. Some old book pages, and these are old from 1800. I have a lot of different books that I use. And then I have stamped some text on it. Some old music paper. And there are pockets in these two. So all of them have pockets on the top. This is also a page where I have collaged and then printed, scanned and print. And of course some lace. And this one is also sewed in like this, but you can also put in just a kind of a seam binding and make a knot on the in or outside. I will show you that also later on. This is one that I have made a bit more with the spine. So it's still one signature, but I have made a wider spine so you can put in some more things in it. So I made it the same way. I have decorated it and put in a doily, some monogram from a kitchen towel, a little flip with textile, so you have a writing space under the textile, a little place to write. And these pages I have just ripped, so they are a bit uneven. I have made some watercolor painting. And if you don't want to make your own, you can just stamp and then paint. And that way you can make your own. Same way with this one. Stamp it and then color it. So then you get some of your own pattern. That can be fun. So you can see that you can use almost everything. And these pages are also, I have colored them, so you can see that it's nothing that is background printed. I have just smushed on some color on them. Like that. And then decorated them with textile and different prints, coloring. Using different papers and different textiles. This is also a page with a little curtain, so you have writing space under it. And then I have put linen on the inside to give it some strength. Another way to make a journal is to use an old book cover like this. And you take out all the papers and then you put in new one like this. This one is 2 signatures, and I have sewed them right through the spine with some thread and then decorated it with lace so you don't see them. And here you can see they are sewn with 3 holes. So I will show you that also, how to sew in the signatures. And as you can see, it's rather thin at the moment. But as I will going to fill them up with a lot of things, I don't put in so much paper from the start. That will be filled up with ephemera and decorations later on. So that one way, and in this one I have also used different kind of papers. Printables, old ephemera, some parchment paper or tracing paper. It's fun, it's a bit thin so you can see through it. Some paper that is used when you are moving. These are papers to wrap your things in so they won't get hurt during the transport and not break. This is old music paper that I have found in a thrift store. And these are printables that you buy online, and you get a file to your phone or computer, and then you print them out at home. That way you can get a lot of paper for less money. So for about $2 up to $5 you can get a lot of different pages to print out. But when you start, use what you have, because it won't be easy the first time you make the journal. So don't use originals and expensive paper when we are doing the first one. You need to practice as with everything to get it nice. I practice a whole lot before I manage to be satisfied with my journal. So don't give up if you don't get it as you thought you would the first time. And you can always redo it. Take away your sewing and redo the insert of the signatures, because they need to be stable, so you can't move them in the book. They should be sewn in so they are staying in place. So you need to do it properly and make some knots that will hold. And at the same time you can't be so strong so that you will pull and break the paper. So it's a little balance to find the right way to do it, but we will make it. So what should we more show you? This is also from an old book cover, but I have made the spine myself because it was broken. So I have used the book covers and then I have put in a soft spine with textile. And this one will be kind of a creative journal where I paint watercolors and do some creative things. I haven't started it yet, but you can see that it's mine. It's an A as in Anneli. And some wallpaper and a bit of a gold on the edges. Some hand embroidery. Another one that I have made is this little lace journal. I have used all my old and beautiful laces that I had. So you can see it's not so big, but it's still beautiful, and you can fill it up with whatever you have. So this one is really a lace journal. A lot of different laces and wraparounds like this. Where did I have it? On this one. And I have also printed, put lace on my printer or my scanner and scanned the laces and print them out. Then I get pages with lace on. An old original book paper from 1851. I have put it on another paper to give it some strength. It was a bit fragile. More beautiful laces. An old piece of a book from my great-grandmother. And this is also her hymn book from 1819. A page from her book. Some more old ephemera, originals from 1869. And an all original photo. So you can see that you can use so many different things to decorate. and make it nice. I have made these as pockets from an old tablecloth. Okay. I have two more to show you, so you have some samples how to can make your journals. This is a big one, and I have made it as a bag. So I have some stripes to put on my shoulder, so I can carry it like that. And then it's having flips with the different pockets, and inside it have different pockets to put flowers and my painting gear and stuff like that. So this is a bit fun. This is a lot of pockets on a flip, so you can put different things in the pockets. And still flip it up and have another pocket under here. And there are also big pockets behind these pages. And these are Ecodyed linen that I have done. And the last one is just need to put down my clip so I know where I have it. It's the biggest journal I have made, the thickest one. This is a lot of signatures in this one. This is also a book that is totally filled with lace and embroidery and goodies. Beautiful pictures and lace, flips and pockets. And some tags. Envelope with an old metal thing I found in my outhouse. So that is a closure. Some coloring. And it holding it down with a belly band that goes diagonal on the page. So a lot of different kind of journals. More or less big. So I will put this away, and then I will start to show you what you need to start make these journals. So let's go through what you need, so that the next part can start put it together. So for a cover you will need something that is a bit sturdy. You can use a cereal box. You can use some old file folders. You can use some wallpaper. Something that is a little bit sturdier than ordinary paper. Handmade paper work as well, because that's a bit more sturdy to rip. It won't rip so easy. You can also use textile, but I always use both. So when I use textile like this, I have a paper under it, because it's easier to glue it down onto the paper and then sew it if you would like to. That way you get the textile feeling, but it's still a bit sturdy. So this is a piece of file folder, and then I have put linen on the inside and collaged different textiles on the outside. I have sewed this on machine, but you can also, like I have done, sew it by hand if you would like to have some sewing pattern. You can also take a fine liner and kind of mark so it looks like you have sewed it if you like the sewing. This is also one type of cover that I have made. This is paper and it's a print, so I have printed it out from a digital. Then I have put leather on the spine to make it really sturdy, and then I have put some quilt on the inside, mostly because it's nice to touch and give this nice sound. So this is an easy way to make the cover. You can still see that it has a lot of space, so if you would like to put in 2 small signature or 1 big, you can still do that. As in this one, you can see that it's 2 signature in this little one. And this is the kind of journal we are going to do, only because I want to show you how to put in 2 signature instead of just 1, because that can be a bit of a problem in the beginning. But I'm going to show it right away, so you can put in more than 1 signature if you would like to, and how to think in case of how many papers you should use in every signature. This is a signature when you have this pile of paper that you put together. That's called a signature. So to put in 1, it's rather easy. You just sew in the middle and out on the back side. But when you put in 2, you need to have some measurements and think how many paper you can have, so it won't look like a open like this. When you have put in the papers, you still want the book to be straight and nice. If you put in too many papers, it will look like this when it's done. And that's not so nice. So we want it to still look more like this when it's done. So we are going to learn that. So something a bit sturdy and a nice beautiful paper or a textile to have on the inside and the outside, so you can cover up the sturdy thing in the middle. If you know how have maybe a piece of cardstock or something from a cereal box, you need to cover it up on both sides. So paper or textile or maybe wallpaper will work perfectly. The next thing you need is some papers, and you can use ordinary copy paper, white, or if you want to kind of color them with some watercolor or whatever, some distress ink maybe. Or you can also use printables or newspapers, pages from a book. Some old letters. These are Ecodyed papers and printables and pieces from an old embroidery book. Some tracing paper that I have printed on, just to have some different kind of papers. And then I have printed out some of my old photos. I have just put them on the scanner and printed them out. So these are from my stash. And nice to have and play with in the journal. So pick out, let's say, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Pick out 20 papers. I think that will be enough for this first journal. Maybe we will use less, but if you have 20 kind of A4 size, that will work. So when we do the journal, the cover will be, I'm going to do it in inch. The cover will be 1/2 inch bigger, both in this size and this size. So when you put in the papers, it will be kind of like this. So you can see we have a piece of the cover on every side. Was a little bit less, but at least so the paper is inside the cover. And that's how I start. Then we can do another kind of journal that is a bit more wild. But for a basic, I will show you kind of like this. I don't mind if the paper is sticking out. Kind of if you put a envelope, you can have it peeking out like this. Maybe not this much, but maybe kind of like this. That's totally okay for me, and if you want to do that when you put in the papers, it's okay. But kind of for a basic, I'm saying 20 A4 papers. I'm going to do it with A4 papers, and that's the easiest way. If you have another size on your paper, just think that the cover needs to be bigger than your papers, or you have to cut the paper down to fit the cover. When you do a book like this, you need to think that this is the size you need to go for. But then in the inside you can see I have different sizes of paper. I have folded this one. So and this one is folded up. So you can put them in different sizes, and that makes the journal more fun, I think. So we will do something with those 20 papers. And if you don't have anything else than ordinary copy paper, use that. Just so that you can try to put it together and get the feeling of how to make it. Don't go and buy expensive things. Use what you have. Book papers. You can use book papers like this. And if you can take them out so they are kind of 2 by 2. So you can have them as 2 pages. You can also put them, glue them onto the copy paper to make a pattern on them. So that's the paper and the cover. Then you need glue, and to starters, use what you have, but the best glue is one that is transparent and not so shiny. And this one I use is for bookbinding, so it's a bit elastic and sticks to both textile paper and even some plastic I have glued with this one. But use the glue you have to starters, and see if you like to do this first. Don't go and buy a lot of things in case you don't like to make journals. You maybe think this is totally boring when you have tried it once. It's kind of addictive. I will give a little warning. So when you have started to make journals, it often ends up like me, making hundreds of them. Mostly because it's so you can do so many different kinds of journals, and when I'm working on one, I have already thought about the next one and the next one, and you see different beauties on Pinterest or YouTube. So you can also go back in my playlist on YouTube and see all kind of different journals I have made earlier. I think it's about 150 different recordings about journaling stuff. Everything from coloring paper to embroidery and different journals. So a glue for paper, and if you have a textile, make sure you have a glue that also is working for textile, so it won't fall off later. Then you need some string and something that is really sturdy. You can use waxed thread, or like this is Merseyside yarn for crocheting, and this is very, very strong. I can't tear it for anything. So some yarn or thread that are strong to use to bind this with. The waxed thread can be a bit hard to make knots with, so to starters I prefer to use cotton yarn. That is a bit easier to get the knot to stay in place. You also need some kind of a tool that you can make holes with. You can have a kind of like this, or something that you can use a nail if you don't have any thing that works, just so you can make a hole through the paper like this. You need to make sure that you get it through the papers and can sew. And then you need a couple of clamps so we can hold the paper in place while we sew it. It gets everything so much easier. Okay, I think that's it for today. I will give you a day to gather your things before we start making the journal. So a cover, some paper, maybe some textile if you would like that, and maybe some basic textile if you have thin paper that need to be strength, then you can put a piece of textile onto the paper. I often use that for my old book papers. Let's see if I have some in this one. No, it's the other one. Kind of when I have this, I put a piece of textile on the spine to give it some strength. And then I make sure that this old antique paper will hold for many times when you are going to flip through your journal. And of course some scissors and some thing to do the measurements with, so you can make sure to get your signature in the right position. Okay, I hope you will keep me company and make your own journal if you haven't made one before. And I can assure you, everyone can make a journal. So please join me, and I will prove to you that everyone can make a journal. So hope to see you soon again, and have a nice evening. Until next time, bye bye from Sweden.